acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of Aboriginal people to country, pay our respects to elders past and present. We also extend that respect to all First Nation people. Thank you, councillors. Number 1 is apologies. Councillor Bland is an apology at this stage. Number 2, acknowledgements. I have no acknowledgements. Number 3, declarations of conflict of interest. Do any members have any conflicts of interest they wish to declare? Councillor, start with Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I do have a conflict of interest. It's regarding item number 1, community grants recommendation 4, and the nature of interest is perceived. So when we get to recommendation number 4, I'll be leaving the chamber. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a conflict of interest for the same item, and I will be leaving the chamber.
Item 1, 4, or which one?
The community grants.
Yeah, but which one of the?
Sorry, I don't.
They are in several recommendations, and we'll be taking them singly.
Sorry.
Page 13. Would it be the golf club?
Yes, sorry,
That's number
1-6.
1 recommendation 6. Thank you. Anyone else? There being no one else, I move to item 4, which is the confirmation of the minutes, including the confidential minutes held on the 16th of April 2024. We'll move that way, please. Councillor O'Hara, mover. Is there a seconder? Councillor Maidment gets the Guernsey.
Thank you.
Anyone wish to challenge anything else in those minutes? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. For 5 is adjourned business, so I have no adjourned business. Number 6 is reports by members. 6.1, the Mayor's report. Councillors, anyone got any questions?
Computers locked me out, Mayor.
Computers locked you out. We'll have a look at that.
Said update the password. I've done it, didn't
I just might, on the 30th of April, we met with some different parties, just in trying to understand what childcare is available in this district and what could be. I think we're starting to get into a position of there's not much, basically. But we're just trying to get a sort of our position of how far we should pursue that without offending anyone that's already in business in the area.
Meeting with the Duro working group.
Yep.
There's nothing in the budget for that. What happened to that group?
So that is a community group, and I was invited to attend, so I did. And it'll be a community-driven group driving why was it not funded, in effect. Might add that there was a discussion yesterday, you missed this discussion a bit earlier, with Murray Lands Councils around how we deal with the Greater Adelaide Freight Bypass proposal as it may be dressed up. See, the Transport Minister was at the bottom of the freeway this morning talking about safety enhancements again. Yeah, so
What's it going to be?
well, whatever he is, he's a good bloke for us. So yeah, I was invited, so I felt I should go to that. Anyone else? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if you advised this before or not, but April the 10th, general catch-up meeting with the CEO, Tony Basson, and the federal member, Parker. What's that about?
Nothing in particular.
Nothing particular?
Nothing in particular that I can remember.
Right, okay. I just thought
Our
some
federal
new news.
member makes an effort to get around, and he's, as usual, on a tight timetable.
Yep.
CEO might remember.
Through you, Mayor, we also raised the sustainability survey that the Commonwealth are doing, just to get his insight into it, as he's also on that working party.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Want to stretch it while councillor Arthur is working on his computer? Councillor Peach, yes.
The Native Veg
Thanks, mate.
Act briefing,
Much for getting.
what was the takeaway from that?
The takeaway for me is that it'll be hard to make substantive changes in the Native Veg Act. I suppose particularly from I don't know yet that meeting online told me much about
That's right.
roadside clearance, bushfire prevention and rubble pits, which is our general, what was our general interest. I have seen other presentations, but this is a review of the Act which the LGA felt it could influence. And there's a project officer on this. So councillor Roundtree, you want to add to your report?
No, thanks.
Anyone
Nothing
else
more to
got
add.
questions? Okay. Number 7, we have no petitions. Number 8, we have no deputations. At this stage, we have number 9, no public question at all. Number 10.1, decision reports. Number 1 is 23-24 community grants, round 1, but it is our only round this financial year. Councillors have had a presentation around the background of all these, and it was felt that the best thing to do is to move each of them separately. Has anyone got any questions before I start that process? My understanding is that the amount recommended in this process at this stage is below the budget allocation, is it? As well? No questions?
Mr Mayor, just a bit of a maths I did, it's $6,291 under the $30,000
30
budget.
grand, thank you.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry.
yeah,
Can I just foreshadow that I'll be seeking to vary 7?
yes, you can't, you guess what, yeah, you have, so bad luck for me. Yep,
I'll be out of the room before that, so.
yes,
just
I
wanted to foreshadow
appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to start with number 1. And this is a community grant in relation to the Meningie Football Club of value of $5,000. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Bowman is the mover. Councillor O'Hara is the seconder. Any discussion? Being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Number 2, in relation to a community grant to the value of $1,239 to the Netherton Hall for the program, Councillor O'Hara and Roundtree. Any discussion? Being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Number 3, in relation to community grants, the value of $970 to the Yamali Hall. Councillor Roundtree is the mover. Councillor Maidman is the seconder. Is there any discussion? Being none, I put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's also carried. Number 4, Councillor Qualman will be leaving the move, received, leaving the building. Let me just pull the door shut, please. In relation to our community grants, and to see receive approved funding of $4,500 to the Tailem Christmas Parade for some
Can I
capital.
just ask, that was for those speakers, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's for a capital item. It's just for sound system, yes.
Right, should that be in there to say that?
None of the others.
That's what the
Yeah,
application said. I understand what you're saying, councillor, but yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
none of the others have it.
No.
The
oh,
listing.
No, I had the same first reaction reading it because it
Yeah.
identifies it for the parade, not for,
It's for the capital item. Should be used at other times. There is someone prepared to move it? Councillor Peach. Bateman. Is there any discussion? With the motion, all those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Can we invite councillor Bowman back in the room, please? Number 5 is in relation to a grant of $2,000 to the Menengi Christmas Parade program. Someone prepared to move that way? Councillor O'Hara. Seconder. Councillor Maidment, thank you. Any discussion?
Are these going to be ongoing applications, are they?
No. Well. We'll close. Put the motion. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Number 6, councillor Beach is leaving the room. Received interest and is leaving the room. In relation to community grants, we allocate $5,000 to the Tintinara Golf Club through the community grants program. Councillors Rountree and Qualman, I'm picking up. Any discussion? There's none. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Welcome back, councillor Peach. You indicated you wish to vary item 7.
thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wish to add, subject to the establishment of a lease, no less than 5 years.
Everyone's got the gist of that?
Yep.
May I provide some background?
Yeah.
Claire?
Certainly, and you're moving that way.
Yeah, so as part of the information that councillors sought with the grant process, one was around the lease currently in place between Careship Coorong and the owners of the property. There's only 2 years left to go on that lease, and they have indicated they wish to extend that for a further 10 years. But in the absence of it being extended, I would like to just stipulate that at a bare minimum, we have a 5-year term going forward.
Yep.
I just wondered if you need in the motion to stipulate.
Well, I'm happy to add between the Atuis and Careship Coorong.
Yeah, between the two, yeah,
Yes, between
two
the
relevant
Atui.
parties.
Yep.
Can I just ask a question? Who's the lease between? The owners of the property and Coorong Careship?
Correct.
Okay. And subject to remuneration of some description being put in the lease, would have to be, wouldn't it? Have to be.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the only page that we saw was the final page that stipulated the time.
Lease has got a remuneration.
Okay, I need a seconder before we do anything.
Happy to second it.
Councillor Peach is the mover and councillor Rountree is the seconder. It's open for debate, councillor.
I'll start. I won't be voting for it because I just think it's too untidy.
Okay. Councillor Maidment,
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not voting for this either because I think we are setting a precedence to fund private property for upgrades.
thank you. Anyone else want to enter the debate?
I agree, Dave, it's a Pandora's box in my opinion.
Anyone else wish to speak?
I'm speaking for the motion. I just think what this group do for people in the community is very, very good. And it's easy to lose sight of the overall picture, what they're trying to achieve. I think with the changes to the motion, making sure that the lease is signed, sealed and delivered, I think that's actually going to solve a lot of problems. It means that for the period of time they're going to get this money and what they're going to use it for will actually benefit the people that live in that town and use that dementia care services. There's nothing else out there even remotely like this, and it is such a good program, an expanding program and a valued program in the community that if they don't apply for these sorts of grants and we don't show some leniency, but also with qualifications, which is what we've now done. Be ashamed to just return that $5,000 to the coffers and not go back to community in some form. So I will be strongly supporting this.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak? I'm down to two of you. You don't have to,
I'll pass closing remark.
but you will close if I'm looking at Councillor Corman. He doesn't have to speak, but he's. Money's granted, I presume.
At least a 5-year term going forward from. Correct. So inclusive of that 2 years, I'm talking from now forward, needs to be 5 years, yeah,
The date of grant.
Extending their original one by 3 years.
at least.
Councillor
covers it.
Peach, you're going to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do share some of the concerns raised by Councillor Maidment and O'Hara, and I think I raised this in the workshop. I am going to support the motion on the basis of a period of time and return to community over that time. But in going forward, this is the sort of thing that needs to be ironed out well in advance. I'll close.
Thank you. Okay. The motion is as you read on the screen, and that is moved by Councillor Peach, seconded Councillor Roundtree, that Council, in accordance with the Community Grants Policy and Procedure, approve funding to the value of $5,000 Careship Coorong to the 23-24 Community Grants Project, subject to the establishment of a lease between the lessor and the lessee for a period of no less than 5 years from the date of the grant. Okay, councillors, those voting for the motion, please show. Those voting against. So the motion is lost, with councillors Peach and Roundtree voting for the motion. Councillors Bowman, Maidment, Arthur and O'Hara voting against the motion. Lost. Thank you, councillors. We move on to item 2, Canal District Swimming Pool Season Review. Recommendation to receive and note the report. Quite good. Someone wish to move that way, please? Councillor Roundtree, thank you. The seconder. Councillor Maidment. Any discussion, questions?
I have a question, Mayor.
Yeah.
So at the end of the report, there seems to be an income and expenditure thing added.
Yep.
That is from council, have added that in. Is it from the committee, is it?
For you, Mayor, we present that, I think, at every meeting to the swimming pool committee. I think they've taken it from there.
Okay, all right. So
Oh, no, this is our report, sorry.
Yeah.
This is not the minutes, sorry. This is ours.
that's yours. All right, okay. So what was contractors discretionary for 14,000? I couldn't quite figure out what that would be. You've got contractors statute, contractors discretionary.
For you, Mayor, I'll look to the director without preempting. It would be something I should imagine around the maintenance of the salt and the chlorinators and all the things that go with it, but
There is a repairs and maintenance line too.
Through the chair, I'd like to take it on notice. I believe, as the CEO has indicated, it's unplanned expenses, materials that might come up from time to time, but happy to look into it and come back to council with a more detailed response.
That would be useful. It's just it's one of the most expensive things and it's not really clear what it's for.
for you, Mayor, there is a little bit of training to go on with three different categories there between staff, and you'll notice in the BR3 that's coming up tonight as well, that some of the work that the finance team is to readjust after the staff in the field put it into maybe a possibly wrong category. But generally, those three things relate to maintenance of some sort and some nature, whether it's internal or contractor.
Okay.
Councillor Maidment.
Yes, while we're on the expenditure, thank you, Mayor. What are the consumables at a swimming pool? What would that be? Toilet paper, I suppose, for the toilets,
Food-
that sort of
food
thing?
to the canteen, it could be a whole lot of things.
Okay. I do have some comments on this, if that's
Go on.
happy to continue. Really pleased to see that the attendance was up at the pool. That's fantastic. And the extended opening times are really great, and the takeaway food's a really good idea. So well done to that committee. That's great. I am concerned about income versus expenditure on this asset. And being new to council, has this happened before? Is it ongoing, or have I asked the wrong question? By the look on the faces there. I understand the community benefit, and it's fantastic.
We would have taken
Okay.
very short meeting.
Could we as a council help with that in some way?
Well, there's a lot of ways of looking at it. I think we probably have. By
I mean,
fully
reducing the
refurbishing the pool.
expenditure.
Refurbishing the pool, but I must say that I think we're now covering our risks, I believe, in running this pool. But costs are kept down enormously by volunteers and a very active
Sure.
volunteer group.
Yeah.
It's probably the most reasonable compromise if you look at other councils' pools you might find state between cost and service and availability, to be quite
Yeah.
honest. But I welcome your question though, because like anything, none of them make money.
Okay, thank
Through
you.
Mr Mayor, the
Yep.
expenses are 6 times the
The
income.
income, yeah.
That's a big gap.
Through the chair, in my experience with regional swimming pools, that is probably, unfortunately, that would be the same with every swimming pool and councils and regional.
They're not cheap assets.
Okay,
Mr Mayor, sorry.
yep.
Could this consumers, could we be advised of what that is in more depth? Because, like for 7 months of the year, you use $11,000 worth of toilet paper and that sort of stuff. So it's got to be more than just toilet paper. So I really, well, personally, I'd like to find out what that is. And the other thing is the electricity. Now, is that the total electricity bill for that complex? Because as we know, we should know, the actual caravan park and them are on the 1 metre. So a lot of this could be caravan park consumption. It was suggested that when we did the alterations, we put a sub-meter in that would record the usage at the caravan park. But that never happened. So I'm wondering if we could also be informed whether that is full pool or part pool.
The council is.
And also while you're at it, Mr Mayor, the $5,000 for gas seems an extreme amount of money for the time that the pool's open,
The gas, did you say?
whether they are jointly together too.
Well, I think that the director's given a commitment to present a bit more in-depth and perhaps up if that's the case, caravan park costs. Nonetheless, I don't think that stops us voting on the motion. There's no one else? Bowman, sorry, I didn't.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah. Sorry, I missed him. Councillor Arps has already asked some of my questions. That one was electricity and the gas, of course. And are we looking down the track to, it'd be good to see some segregation to where the money goes or where the costs are to be split up? It's not always the swimming pool, there's some of the caravan park. We're looking at bit of cost saving by solar powered or anything like that? Is that in the wind down the track?
No, there's no budget line, but
Through the chair, there is no budget line, correct? I think part of the work is the work that Tracy's been doing in terms of her carbon footprint and audit. And that will identify the areas that use the most power and hence then the opportunities for savings, because we've got other things such as swims and the like that contribute to electricity. But again, you know, we need the capital to buy the solar and install the solar. We've got budget lines for that, but I suspect that's what we really need to do over the next couple of years.
Sounds good. And if I may, Mr Mayor, a couple of other questions. Salary and on, I assume the salaries for the lifesaver, is that correct?
It will be lifesavers as well as, there are some staff who dedicated, have dedication to the pool during this season as well.
And just a final comment, it's good to see good patronage and good opening hours, so it's going quite well. I just had concerns with the figures, that's all, but they've been answered, thank you.
Okay, councillors, thank you. Is there no more questions? Councillor O'Hara?
One more, did I? That council staff are paid to run this sometimes?
No. For you, Mayor. So we have staff who do the gardening there still, who look after the plant and the salt and all that sort of thing. And the volunteers predominantly look after the canteen, but the actual running of the pool, the maintenance of the pool is still staff.
Okay. Receive and note the report, councillors. I'm putting the motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Number 3, Bendigo Bank, Community Bank, Keith and Districts Branch, the extension of a fee waiver for the site at Meningie. There's 2 parts of the recommendation there, councillors. Your consideration. Councillor Peach, you want to move that way?
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
There's a seconder. Councillor Roundtree, speak you to it. Wish to speak, Councillor Peach?
I do, thank you. Mr Mayor, I think the last 9 months have been somewhat successful with the Bendigo starting to operate out of Meningie. The most recent round of grant funding has returned to council district significantly over the fee waiver amount for the last little while, and indeed going forward, noting that money has now been allocated to areas outside of their traditional footprint, including into Meningie, and I hope that anybody following along now actively pursues the next grant round. I believe it's $40-something thousand that they've handed out within the Coorong district this year. So please support this motion going forward.
Councillor Roundtree, you want to add?
No, that's same what I was.
Anyone else want to give that extension for another 12 months? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried, but Councillor Maidment voted against the motion. But the other councillors all voted for the motion. Was Peach, Arthur, Roundtree, Coleman and O'Hara. Thank you, councillors. Number 4, Wadmore House, request for formal removal of encumbrance.
I'll move that way, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Arthur's moving that way. Is there a seconder? Councillor Coleman gets it again. Councillor O'Hara, you
Thank you.
at working with Campbell's done it, done you? Councillor O'Hara, Councillor Arthur, you want to speak to this?
Yes, I think it's, we've workshopped this before. Say, the only way to go, and virtually until we do this, probably our hands are tied with what we can do with it. So just hope the minister doesn't put it on his desk and leave it there. Let's hope we can get an answer pretty quickly.
Anyone else wish to add to the debate? Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I totally agree with what Councillor Arthur says. Until this is removed, it's not going to go anywhere, I feel. So we'll make it then known what direction council can take once this comes, if it does get removed, is removed. It'll be a lot more easier. Thank you.
Has anyone got a view, looking at Miles here, how long this would take? Who knows? But 6 months?
I think the process would probably meeting with the minister to move things along.
Thank you.
But Mayor, I think-
Thank you for that.
I think you would think 6 months from recent events would not be out of the question.
Right. Anyway, I thought it was worth asking. There's no one else?
Close.
You close, I put the motion, it is the recommendation, councillors. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 5, can I just perhaps, Miles, can you just give us a brief, there's quite a big report here. Give us a brief just position on where we're at with this process before we consider it.
I'll do my best. So we did have a workshop, introduced the concept of a regional assessment panel. Of course, at the moment, we have Coorong Assessment Panel. It's been in operation now for a good 3 years or so. And it's working very well. More than 3 years, sorry, about 6 years now. Just to clarify as well, with the assessment panel that we have, the terms expire at the end of July, so I've already gone out for an extension of terms. Regardless of the regional assessment panel, I cannot risk having any gaps between having a panel. I have to have a panel at any given time. The regional assessment panel concept really has been driven by a approach from Mid-Murray and rural city of Murray Bridge, and they probably have a greater incentive, I think, to look at a regional assessment panel, in particular where councils may have some higher levels of development and hence potential meetings of panel, and potentially also have some challenges in terms of acquiring a assessment manager. Look at the regional assessment panel. We obviously don't have that issue. Now, the main incentive when I was approached was the thought of resource sharing. So the key to where we're at the moment is, I think the timing for Mid-Murray and Murray Bridge is somewhat urgent compared to our timing. Leave the door open to engaging, becoming part of a regional assessment panel at a later date. To engage now isn't completely necessary, and it doesn't close the door to conversations about resource sharing. I think that's the most important thing. So in areas such as building inspection, it's extremely difficult to get qualified people and keep people, and if we're going to have a surge in residential development, we'll need to potentially have a chat to Murray Bridge and others about some resource sharing opportunities. So this recommendation doesn't close the door on those conversations, but given the response that elected members provided at the workshop, this recommendation reflects that response. It doesn't commit today, but it says that we will certainly have a look again, maybe in a year's time. I hope that helps.
Councillors, yesterday, group of the 5 councillors of the old Murraylands region had a informal discussion, and I would fair to say this will probably go forward with at least 2 councillors, as Miles has indicated. I think in the midterm, there is probably a concern that we would potentially lack the site visit capability of our present panel, but in a model, you will note that the Eyre Peninsula, all councils on Eyre Peninsula are in one cap. But if that could be ameliorated, and I see no downside in us just to potentially given the opportunity to join later. To be quite honest, so the recommendation I think is quite good. I'm prepared to move it.
Oh, just
Yes, question?
what is the benefit not to join? It is, to me, when I read through there, got the one committee that does the whole lot, instead of having to have, as we are now, each council's got their own cap, which you have to have. They say, you know, look, we're talking about collaboration and money saving. Well, to me, it's a pretty good way of doing it.
Councillor.
And I think the dialogue really should be started on Where's income basis now?
We are relatively fair income, but it's just we're a bit early in the process not to do something today.
I will respond to that. I haven't seen a business case that's developed sufficiently to put forward to elected members. Even in terms of the financials, I can't present you a business case that I think provides clarity in terms of cost savings. The logic of something like this is that the more meetings you have, savings. But as you can see from the table, the councils that have the most meetings are the Murray Bridge and Mid-Murray.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to make the savings. It is just pure logic. We're having, we haven't had a meeting this year at all. We probably may only have 1 or 2 meetings. If I had spent the time doing the financials on this, I would probably conclusion that if there's savings, it would be minimal. One of the concerns I had about some of the information that was sent through to me was that the financial was split, was based on a 20%.
Each one.
5 councils, 20% each. I did, like, when I saw that, I thought, no, I'm not quite sure what you're getting at here. That doesn't seem to make sense to me. So unless there's something else in the formulas, that they intended, it wasn't presented in a way that I felt I can present to this council and say, yes, we can make savings. Let's pursue it. The other thing is, was moving too fast. So recommendation again, Murray Bridge and Mid-Murray look like they're making recommendations this month to have their CEOs approach the minister to form a regional assessment panel. So from a workshop that we had, I didn't think that that would be supported by this chamber. So again, taking the tack to say, let's continue with our panel that has site meetings, and site meetings is another issue. There's nothing in the information that was presented to me by Mid-Murray Council that had any reference to site meetings. I would make the assumption that with a regional panel that you won't be having site meetings because logistically I just can't. Videos most likely presented by council staff. I think that's inferior to the current system that we've got with site meetings by the panel members. So there are a number of things that weren't included in the information that was sent to me that made me feel that I didn't have, I thought it wouldn't be appropriate to present to the elected members. It was inconclusive. You couldn't make a decision on it. But I think the process, as the Mayor said, the recommendation is balanced. I don't think the other councils, would feel put out by Coorong taking some time to see how a RAP comes together and potentially consider joining sometime late next year.
Councillor Roundtree.
I am happy to move the motion. I have just one statement, one question. In the recommendation, is the word in the wrong spot? So it says it continues to administer the Coorong. Should be the current Coorong?
Yep.
Yep. Does the motion need to reflect that any decision to consider joining a regional assessment panel will come back before the full council?
Absolutely.
It would automatically come.
Automatically? Okay, I'm happy to move that motion.
You're a seconder. Councillor O'Hara is the seconder. To speak, Councillor Roundtree or Councillor O'Hara? Anyone else? Councillor Peach?
Mr Mayor, I will support the motion as it currently reads. I just would like to note the concerns I raised during the workshop. I don't support anything that further centralises decision-making. I think the removal of the councillor on the panel that can provide local and regional context is not in the advantage of our ratepayers. And as the director's brought up, I think the inability to conduct site visits in a super panel, which essentially the proposal would be, is not something I would support either. Down the track, I may support something that is with one other council, but I think the what we first looked at was not in the interests of our ratepayers.
Okay. Anyone else wish to join the debate?
No, just, I'll just, at the present moment, you've got 5 there, which all got 5 members, correct?
Potentially.
Each council got 5 members, so there's 25 members. It goes back into 5 members. okay, if it's all split up, some of the, it's always going to be some council areas that have this. As far as council having any say in it, as you know, we don't. It's an independent panel. All we've got is Miles's crew underneath who look at the application, and if it meets the criteria, it's passed. If it's not, it goes, and then there's appeal, it goes to the cap. So, you know, to say that we've got any control over it is completely false. So it's all independence, and unfortunately that's the way it is. So I'll vote for it at this stage as long as we keep going forward and looking to one of the ways of saving money.
Okay. Does anyone else wishes to speak? No, I take it there's none. Close, councillor.
Closed.
Councillor, I put the motion and you notice that slight grammatical correction around the word "the." I put it anyway. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously, councillors. Thank you. For 6, growth strategy progress report. Councillor Roundtree, sorry.
Happy to move.
Move that, thank you. You're a seconder. Councillor Arthur, right, questions for debate? There is none. You'll close. Put the motion. Council receives and notes the report. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Number 7, proposed code amendment Tintinara Airfield. Is there a recommendation? There is one there. 2 parts. Someone move that way, please. Or Roundtree's, what are you doing?
I was pointing to council.
Well, you're not pointing, you want to
Yep.
move it or not?
Absolutely.
Righto. For a seconder. Councillor Peach, you want to second it?
Happy to, Mr Mayor.
Want to speak to it, either of you?
No, it's a great initiative that doesn't cost us money.
Well, it's considering chewing up some time which didn't need to, let's put it some way. Minister's given us this system to get out of jail.
A lot of reading in that report. That was
I knew you
almost
would honestly
overload.
do that, no end.
No, I'm not going to say I read the whole thing, but got through most of
Now
it.
you know what our independent councillor on the panel has to go through. Councillor May.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a query with this one. This is for the Tintinara Airfield Code Amendment. Is it possible in the future that it may apply to the Meningie Airfield,
What
this code amendment itself?
we're re-establishing a policy that was in the previous development plan, and that was only for the Tintinara Airfield. There wasn't anything for Meningie. Meningie Council would have to fund a code amendment, and normally the cost of that is around about $50,000.
So this amendment doesn't cover all airfields, it's specific for Tintinara.
It doesn't well, sorry, the policy airfields that have the potential for residential development alongside them. So it can apply. So I think the person that helped develop this policy was Galway. That was the first one. And then Tintinara obviously got some policy in it. So you'll find a number of airfields around the state have this policy. But those that don't, including Meningie, would require investment from council or a third party or both to fund a fresh code amendment. Noting that at one stage, that's what we were being asked to do with this particular issue, but the Mayor and Bridget and I went to the Minister and said, we don't think that's fair. And they funded it.
So the previous agreement for how this would, the previous allotments were agreed to and adopted, but it was lost in the transition process 3 years ago. And this is the only way to bring it back.
Okay.
The Minister's agreed that he will do that, not us.
I do have one other little question. This is still being put out to community engagement. Is that correct? That finishes in June, doesn't it? From memory for this? From the actual Okay, so can we move this amendment,
Or would we
this
move-
at all today, where it's still out at community engagement?
So through the chair, we don't approve the amendment. The amendment's approved by the minister. What we're doing here is report on the code amendment
Yep,
to make a submission from council, which essentially would be saying, thank you for the code amendment, which takes effect to replace the policy that was lost through transition, as the mayor just explained.
so this submission or the response is going to the actual,
Consultation.
yeah, right, okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Anyone else? Okay. Close, councillor Roundtree.
Opposed?
Put the motion as it reads. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Number 8, Menengi. Can I just get someone to explain exactly what's happened here, please? Number 8 with this electric charging station at Menengi, please.
I will.
Yep.
give it. So councillors, as you remember, we went out to community consultation on the piece of land where the RAA are going to put their charging station. It then became apparent as the plan started to change a little bit that it straddles two pieces of land. One has got a community land management plan on it. The second one is council's. Legal advice said we need to have a motion from council for both pieces of land, not just the one that we went out to consultation with. But there is no requirement for us to have any consultation over the second part where it now infringes, as you can see on the map. So this is really tidying up a little bit of, I'll say, paperwork from the fact that the final design will straddle two pieces of land, not one parcel.
I'll move to, please, Peter, move that, please. Councillor Peach, you're moving.
Happy to move, Mr Mayor. May I ask a point of clarification?
You can.
Do we need to mention a portion of the land in the motion, or is that covered enough in the?
What we've got in the motion is what the legal advice said would be sufficient.
Councillor, I'm just looking, you're going to be a seconder?
I'll be a seconder.
Oh, thank you, councillor Maben. You got a question then?
I do, thank you, Mayor. Through you, my question with this is whether this lease is granted to the RAA in whole. Does it then affect is that the bowling green that it goes over? No, it doesn't. So the boundary that's on the drawing for the lease we're here, you got that? Is that the bowling green there, Mick? Okay, so but the RAA, if they're granted the lease, they don't have permission to rip that up. They can only use a portion of that land for their RAA.
Exactly where their footprint is.
Okay, well, through you, Mr Mayor, I would like to vary the motion to be specific to that, just to allay concerns, because the allotment does include the bowling green.
That blue line is what we're
So-
doing lease.
Oh, yeah.
As per the agenda item photo on those.
More than happy with that, as outlined in blue in the agenda item photo.
That does cross the bowling green in the.
No,
photo.
sorry, in the
And
first
what
image,
part?
it's quite clear where the boundary is. Yep.
Not that one.
Site map in
Yeah, it hasn't got a number. Yep. Site map in report, council report.
You're happy with that, councillor Maben? We'll tidy that up.
Yep.
It is quite interesting with the removal of the CFS building finally, how much it's opened up that area fully. Quite fascinating.
One in.
It's this one here.
Yeah, that one's fine.
That blue
Yeah.
line.
That one's fine.
Yeah, he's happy with that, I believe. Anyone else wish to enter the debate? This is a simple administrative process. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you. Well, I don't know, I'm having trouble understanding this because to me, it looks like where are actually the other two additional ones going to go? Right? I would have thought we had a bit more definition, a bit better
Yeah, no,
diagram.
I know, because the map is still showing the fire station and some trees, whereas that area is relatively clear now. The part of the part of the site is now on a piece of land we're talking about in this motion,
It's two
but it was
poles, four.
2 poles, 4 spots. You remember the council was initially, it was offered only a two-point charging station at Meningie, and that's been upgraded to a 4-point one.
Still only two,
Yes.
through you, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, it's only two uprights.
Yeah, yeah. Sure you'll be there every day charging.
Right.
So it's just simply tidying up a land tenure issue, this is.
Get it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'll be voting against this purely on the basis of not against the installation or against the staff and the council's curious appetite of not charging a private enterprise business a lease payment. I've brought it up many times and I've been told, no, we're not interested. So I don't believe that we should be giving public land to commercial enterprise at no
We're an
charge.
Incorporated body, council. Okay, anyone else? Therefore, someone will close. Councillor Peach.
In closing, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say the CEO's explanation was very kind of the RAA. I would note that we are in this situation because they went a little bit too hastily into the field, and I hope that going forward we don't have that issue again.
We'll understand your position, councillor. The motion is as it reads, with the addition of as outlined in the blue in the site map in council's report. Yep, pretty close. Okay, all those in favour? Those against? Councillor Arthur,
I'm against.
you voted
Put your
for,
hand
got
up
trouble.
Oh, that was so
Yeah.
quick, sorry.
And I've already put you down as against, that's my trouble
I'm
with
not,
my
I am
regular.
a
It
negative.
is carried. What's the next one? Budget review number 3 for the fine number 9, councillors. Recommendation there pursuant to the Local Government Act. Council, someone prepared to move that way, please?
I have some questions,
Yeah, you want to move the motion first, though?
not particularly, not yet.
I'll move to suspend meeting procedures for 10 minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Leave of the meeting to suspend for 10. Yes, 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 or no, 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 please?
Yes.
Yep.
Suspend for 10 minutes, please, Ash. I don't need a motion for that, do I? Okay, where you go? Questions? Who wants to have the first one? Yes, councillor Roundtree.
So the extra 600,000 in depreciation, is that applicable to a particular building? How did we get another 600,000?
Okay.
Miles.
So, through the chair, that figure is across all asset types and as a result of the latest asset revaluations. Anything else in that, Bill?
No, other than through the chair and as discussed in the budget workshops, is we're funding 75% of that, so this is just a reflection of what our depreciation expense.
To you, Mayor, it's the number that we spoke with you on several occasions, but it actually comes into the accounting, statements at this point in time.
Or I feel it's just important to perhaps talk about it in this forum as well, otherwise it's just information that we have only.
You got other questions?
In the reports, thank you, Mayor, in the beginning of the reports, when it says financial implications, and it just says basically it's in the report, is there any way of just coming up with what that, what this particular report does to our bottom line in one number? Like we've got the pros and the cons, we've got the increased money coming in, grant money coming in, extra depreciation. Does it ever evolve that our overall position at this particular time is up or down?
Through the chair, it doesn't alter our long-term financial plan. I think that's really important. It doesn't alter.
But it affects our annual.
It doesn't worsen our current position, and it doesn't worsen our long-term financial plan. So it had no changes to the draft annual business plan that's out at the moment. One of the things that's been factored in, of course, is the grant income that does assist. but there's no deterioration of our position due to BR3.
So through you, Mayor, if you look, councillors, at the first financial report in the document, which is called the Statement of Comprehensive Income, that is pretty much a summary of the position that we are now, with the ins and outs and a little bit of tidy up with some of the reds are the changes, and you can see some of them are ins and outs. The positive side is that we will get a little bit more grant funding from Roads to Recovery because that 4-year program finishes at the end of this financial year, and any outstanding amounts had to be acquitted. So we are in the black for that. That basically covers off against the increase in depreciation. So you can see that the deficit result, which is 2/3 of the way down the page, our end position at this point will be somewhere around the $562,000 as a deficit, which I think our starting point from the beginning of the financial year was around about the 800,000, and that moves a little bit up and down, but it's ins and outs. The depreciation has caused that to go up, but the acquittal of the Roads to Recovery final grant money caused it to basically stabilise. It was almost a neutral sums.
Under cash flows from investing activities, so I've written notes, I forget where it is. We talk about 2.1 million on new and upgraded assets and or loans to community groups. How much of that figure would be loans to community groups?
And there was a presentation at the Audit and Risk Committee meeting. I'll have to pull it out again, councillor, but there's only
it is
two.
in there.
Two of which one I think expires at the end of
Yeah, I
June.
didn't think it was many.
Yeah,
I think that one is probably.
there's no new ones, if
around
that's the
down
question.
to
Yeah, okay.
25,000 from memory.
Yeah, that's what I sort of thought as well. So, yeah, the last question I have then is, the budget on the line. We had a budget for 2 million. We've added on 872,000. Budget review 1 was 3.2 million. Budget review 3 is 1.5 million. Why did it go down?
Councillor, what are you referring to?
Yeah, I knew you'd ask me that. I should write better notes for myself. Find it. Someone else wants to ask a question. I'll find the specific one. It just confused me.
Looking
a
for
bit
anyone
when
else
we've
who's got a
gone
quick
down.
question, councillor Peach.
2 questions. Just noting the movement in salaries and wages in BR2 doesn't seem to be reflected in BR3.
That will be that there's probably no anticipated change. So what the prediction was or the forecast for BR2 is probably the same as BR3.
No, it's not, sorry. So BR2 went down.
From BR1, are you on the
Yes, I'm on employee costs, sorry, on,
statement of cash flow?
sorry, I'm down at sorry, trying to find the last page of the report, sorry.
The last page.
I may be reading this wrong, sorry, Mr. Mayor, but I'm just, we've got the BR1 was the same, was as budgeted. And then BR2, it dropped. BR3's gone up, but there's no correspondent movement in the column.
So the last 6209, 6159, 6209, is that what you're looking at?
No, sorry, it's employee cost, salaries and wages. So adopted budget 5,954,389. It then went down to 5,904 in BR2 and has gone back up in BR3. Movement.
No.
Number 50,000, which
It's
is,
gone up by the corresponding amount to what it went down by last time. But
I'll
It's
take it on
probably-
notice. I think it's just a movement between, but it's, in a sense, it's not material. It's just probably can check. I don't know.
thank you. Yep.
Second question.
Other question I had was regarding consumables. We had a movement down in BR2 of 95,000, and we've got a movement up of 188,000 in BR3. Is that referring to road material for you, Mr. Mayor, or is it, when we're saying consumables, I know we've had this conversation before, but what are we actually talking about?
Consumables aren't toilet paper, and they're not paper in the photocopier generally. There are a lot, it's rubble is probably the main one. And generally it's a point in time, so you will see movement up and down in those because there is a predictive element to it as well, or a forecasting element. So rubble is the biggest consumable that we have.
So just noting that we've spent 137,000 so far to date, but we're still anticipating another 360,000 in the next 3 months. I just wanted,
You want to read that out, please?
Sorry.
You have to get back, in fact, to your mic, yeah.
In the body of the report under expenditure, talks about which relates to funding received last financial year, which results in a net increase in expenditure. So there was a dot point prior to the attachment, the last dot point in the report.
so this is similar to the Telstra Tower going into consumables last time.
Remember, that has still stayed there, yes. That is, that, I've forgotten that point, councillor, but yes.
Could we
it's-
potentially,
We will,
find a
it's a
different line item
one-off,
for
it'll
that
be
one?
gone soon.
I think that's what we said about the Telstra Tower.
The Telstra Tower will be gone soon.
Very much hope it stays.
So
The accounting for it will be gone, and because it's an operational one and it's, we don't own the asset, it's just one of those unique things that happens at point in time in council, and we've popped it into consumables. Now, whether that was right or wrong, it's probably now not, I'll say worth the effort to move it out, but we'll make a note, as we have in the body of the report, not forgotten all about it, that that's what it is.
We're 10 minutes in, councillors. You want another 1 or
Yes.
2 minutes?
I don't think this will be a hard one to answer. It's just I'm not reading it correctly. So yeah, 2 minutes. So
I've got to
I'm
be long
looking
for
at
that, Mr. Mayor.
172. Sorry, it's
Yeah.
page 172 of 314. It is the statement of financial position, the non-current liabilities, long-term borrowings. We had a 23-24 adopted budget of 2.339. Movement between adopted budget and BR1 was 872,000. Movement between adopted budget and BR number 3 is 1.6, which I think I know what that is. Then at the end where it's got the 22-23 draft budget review number 3, we've gone down to 1.595. I wasn't understanding how we've gone up and then we dropped back down to 1.5.
Through, Mayor, that relates to the CAD as we move in and out of the using of the CAD. So again, that's a
Okay,
point
so
in
that-
time.
Grant,
Yep.
right, okay. Right.
Councillors, I've got 10 minutes done.
Knew there'd be a good answer.
Arthur's indicated he might want a bit more time. Is everyone happy with that?
I'm done.
Councillor Arthur?
Yes, I'd just like to clarify a few things in the review. The budget, original budget for plant and machinery was $644,800.
What
There's
report are
been-
you looking at, councillor?
Oh, I haven't gotten the page number. It's the plant and machinery cost. $644,800 is going to be the budgeted figure. Expenditure, and has been adjusted to $1.01 million. Now, I wonder if we could have an explanation on that, please.
Which page?
I only just found the thing I've been looking for them all day.
Councillor, can you ask your question again so I can look at the numbers while you're talking?
Page 176.
Yep.
Should we have an explanation of, like it's a $400,000 increase?
Mm.
Plant and machinery.
It's this one here. Councillor, are you looking at, it's a landscape.
$176.
Through the chair, councillor Arthur, it appears that it's gone up to $1 million in BR2. I don't have that information on.
Yeah.
Clarify.
Right, thank you. And the second, while you're there, The next page, next down is, buildings, building structures and jetties. The adopted budget was, $250,000. And it is now being increased to $668,000. Like a, explanation on why the $410,000 increase there?
We'll take that one on notice too, councillor, and give you a more precise answer.
Right, now, the other one, and this is something I've been harping on for a long time, and all of a sudden it's come here. On page 178, employees' costs. We've got total employees' costs before capital wages recoup, 6.944.427. 6,944,477 Now, that, according to what I'm reading there, is the total amount that we pay in wages. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right. Then we go down below it and it says total operating expense employees costs. It takes it off and it comes to $6,209,423.
Yes?
So that's correct. Now, I'm a general ratepayer and I get the budget here and I look at it and it says income, total income for the year of 18.67 million. Total expenses for the year, 19.237 million. And I look at the employees' costs because I want to know how much we're paying in wages. And it says $6.159 million. It's nearly $700,000 less than we're actually paying out.
Okay.
Now, why is that the case? I've asked this before and I've been told the capital costs. I don't care the capital costs or it's maintenance costs, capital costs or whatever, that total should reflect the town amount of wages we are paying.
Oh, sorry, Mayor.
You have a go.
So
Yeah.
through you, Mayor, that is all set out as transparently as it can be. There is nothing hidden there. Total wages is there, the amount that's capitalised is there. So whatever way you look at it, you have to have cash to pay that, but it is split up between operational budget and capital budget. And there is nothing untoward about how that is represented from a transparency point of view.
But what we present to the public,
Under the model financial statement.
the annual report, doesn't show that. It shows the reduced amount here.
Because there are two parts to reporting. One is about the operational, which is the deficit that we talk about, which is the 500,000 at the moment, and the capital, which is in the balance sheet. So I can't change the accounting rules of how they're shown.
I can't, I'm not talking about changing. I'm talking about letting the ratepayer know what we actually pay in salaries. That's what we actually pay out. Is that correct?
And that's
I
what it's
think,
showing.
I think you've outlined both of the figures, councillor. 6.9 and 6.2.
Or 6.9.
But
It says
that's
it
fine.
there.
So I
But
think
that's
it
the first time I've actually seen it in here for a long
is, we're
time.
moving forward.
Yeah, at all.
Quick, Mayor. Councillor Arthur, that is a report that is shown every time we do a BR3 or every time you get a set of financials. That has been there for as long as I've almost worked here.
Must have been going straight over the top because I've been looking for it for a long time.
It'd be fair to say that in this forum, we find a lot of difficulty in dividing up capital and operating. That's what I would say.
And
But we need to always be vigilant in comparing an apple with an apple in this scenario.
we'll pack.
Righto, I've only about 1 or 2
But
minutes.
what are we
left.
paying, apples with what, bananas and oranges?
And as apple with the same apple. I've only got 2 minutes left in the leave period. Does anyone else? No one else? I'm gonna,
And just one quick,
yeah, quick one.
just one quick thing, right? At the end of the financial year 22-23, we had $2.56 million in the $2.679 million in the bank, according to the details here. According to our figures, unless this is just a cash flow sheet, I don't know what it is now. It's got me confused. You've got the income of
Well,
18 million and the expenditure of 19 million, but we've been told we've got to borrow 1.6 million. And we have deferred a $1.4 million job till next year.
Your question
So
is.
where does the cash flow system work?
You're asking too much of
I don't
us.
know, answer the,
I'm
I
not
don't
gonna do this
understand the
forum,
question.
councillor, quite honest.
Just so you met, the cash that is shown is a point in time. And tomorrow, if you ask me what the balance is, it will be slightly different. So the cash moves every day as we pay expenses. The reason there would be some cash, and you've mentioned it a few times in council, is that at the end of 22, 23, the financial assistance grants came in late in the piece. And so that's an injection of actual cash into some of these reports. And it goes out the next day as we pay the bills.
Always has, yeah.
Always has.
And
There's nothing different there.
councillor, I think I'm also correct.
And rates.
Right.
Rates come in as revenue.
The rates are in the last month. The special local roads funding, which we've allocated in 23-4 for Carcoma Road, we will not receive that money. Tell me if I'm wrong.
So until
No,
Until we actually expend it. In other words, won't get that, of that 1.4.
we have actually taken it out of this year's budget. I will say that. It has been taken out, the 1.4, and $115,000 for Summer Little Street here. Yeah, it won't be done till next year. But that now has to go into next year's budget with presenting the
carry forward.
ratepayers to do expenditure.
To carry forward.
there were accounting treatments to make sure that that happens smoothly.
Yeah, and I've only got 1 minute left.
The BR3, apart from being presented to Finance Committee, was presented to the Audit and Risk Committee as well. And the Audit and Risk Committee Chair, in terms of cash flow, congratulated council on the way it's handling cash flow. Gave us quite a positive report card on BR3 and the way we're managing finances.
We're ending at 6:14. I'm looking for someone to move the recommendation. Councillor Roundtree will move. For a seconder. Councillor Maidman is the seconder. Open for debate, councillors.
Mr Mayor, probably a bit late to the party. Can I move a variation to that, noting the $50,000 discrepancy
Which,
in employee costs?
There's no discrepancy.
Sorry, there is. What it's saying the adopted BR3 figure is $50,000 up on BR2. Happy to, it's just a typo, but BR3 review.
make that adjustment with the mover and seconder.
Fine. I'm not sure you can call them an error.
It's clarification.
We can provide clarification, but I'm not sure you can call it an error, councillor Peach. Remind me, were they the words you just used, if I just made?
Well, yes, in the 23-24 draft budget review 3 column, the figure presented is $50,000 out from BR2 without a movement being shown in the other column.
So I'll take that on notice and I can give you an explanation of that. I just can't do it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm sure it's just a typo, a typographical error, but
We won't add anything to the motion then, please. Don't think it's clear. Right, anyone else want to speak for or against it? Okay. Closing, councillor.
Opposed.
Put the motion, all those in favour? Those against?
Not accepted, no.
You're against?
absolutely, if it's not correct, it's not correct.
Councillor Peach is against and councillors Arthur, Roundtree, Wellman, Aidman and O'Hara are for it. It's carried. Number 10, Finance Committee minutes held on the 7th of May. Someone move that way, please. Minutes of the committee. Councillor Arthur, you're moving. Is there a seconder? Councillor Roundtree is the seconder. Any discussion?
Just a formality.
Thank you. All those in favour? Against, that's carried unanimously. Number 11, Audit and Risk Committee minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of May. Councillors, want to move that way, please? Councillor Qualman. Is there a seconder? Councillor Maidman is the seconder. Any discussion? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Number 12, now for the swimming pool and caravan park minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of April. The recommendation there, we received them. Councillor Roundtree, that's moving that as is.
Yep.
Councillor Qualman is the seconder. Any discussion? There's none. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Number 13. Murraylands Riverlands LGA, minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of April. Councillor Arthur. Is there a seconder? Councillor Roundtree, thank you. Is there any discussion? Councillor Qualman.
Just a couple of questions to you, Mr Mayor, actually. In the minutes here, it said the board endorsed a list of priority roads for 2024-25, funding from the Special Local Roads Program via the LGA. And then it also said this information was provided in Appendix 8, which we don't have. What were those roads? Do you know, Mr Mayor, please?
Memory councillors of the roads of the 5 or 6 priorities is number 1 in the Murraylands Riverland region.
I circulated that, me.
Well,
Just checking.
it was probably the Billiat Road between Alawerna and Lamaroo, Loxton Wakery.
Mhm.
2 would have been our next stage, as discussed earlier today, 2B of Karkuma Road. Third one from memory was the Murraylands Road, but in the Mid-Murray Council between Morgan, oh, I've got the form even, between Morgan and Blanchetown. Number 4, smaller amount in Berry Barnra for Riverview Drive. Number 5 in our council is a considerable amount of reseal on Cooldy Road, and number 6 priority was Alexandrina Drive at Narung.
Thank you.
We would realistically expect to get Karkuma Road, and this process then goes through several other processes before the minister announces.
Mm.
So we'll see how that plays out.
And
Yes.
just one more question. Our popular topic, I see was discussion was had on Corellas. Can anything else update us about action or where we are dealing with those little things?
I think they've left us, they've gone to Councillor Maidment's place. I don't know what they're doing.
Sure have.
It's fair to say it's a statewide problem. Fair to say that it's everyone else's problem, not ever.
Mhm.
We've met with some due officers, and straight away afterwards with a PIRSA officer. The due officers read us the rules, and the PIRSA officer was interested in developing a bait for this bird in particular. I went to the South Australian Regional Organisation Councils last week, yes, and she also presented there, and I would be hopeful that the LGA might help fund a process to find a suitable bait to help control our little friends.
Yep.
They're very smart friends. They live for 50 years and they got a memory like, you know,
Yes.
yeah, so they are a challenge statewide and well into Western Victoria in particular. So, and I sort of well appreciate how the community have had to tolerate, and I think that's the only word I can use.
Mm.
Their long-term resident process of developing a bait will take some time, and we need to consider other strategies fairly soon, or if they return next year for the Tail and Bend Street party that they have.
Mm. Thank you, Mr Mayor, for that. Mm.
Any other questions around the MRLGA? Being none, put the motion. All those in favour? Against, that's carried unanimously. Number 11.1, information reports, Officer the, can I move that way, please? Councillor Arthur. Seconder. Councillor Maidment will go with. Any questions there in that report, motion report? Councillor Roundtree.
So I just have a couple of things. Looking at the income and expenditure summary as at 30th of April, this is probably a more general question. We approve a budget of $18.273 million, and we're forecast to spend 19.3.
Which page do you want, Councillor? First one.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's about $1 million more than we had budgeted to spend when we sit down and we go through all these budget meetings and we come up with a budget, and now we need to spend more. What sort of control do elected members have over that sort of thing? If we were to say, we want you to stick to the budget and only the budget, where does that leave council? Like, how does that work?
So remembering, councillors, that part of the budget process is also the BR1, 2 and 3 processes. So every time a BR1 or BR2, which is Budget Review 1, BR2 and 3 come before you, that is an amendment to the budget as it stands. So you
We
have the
never
original-
really lock it in.
So you have the original budget, but then there are those reviews throughout the year. And the changes there are related to depreciation predominantly.
So the income we're bringing in appears to be the grant funding. There's a fair chunk of it seems about 900,000 more. Is that high risk intersection money that's being reflected there? So
No.
what's that extra
Goes
900?
to recovery,
And
final
that-
payment in the old program.
We didn't factor that in when we did the budget?
No. So there was probably quite late in the piece where we were told we had to acquit everything before the 4-year program finished.
Okay, so it's roads.
5-year,
tourism.
sorry, 5-year
So
program.
they've effectively shut down one program and reopened, starting the 1st of July, a new program, which will grow in money over the 4 years of cycle, but not be equally 4 figures.
Thank you. When there's quite a large jump in materials in the materials and contracts line. And I know we've had discussions at budget meetings about the fact that materials are going to cost us a lot more. So when we factored that into this budget, what we're saying is that even though we had anticipated an increase and we factored that in, the increase is a lot more than we anticipated.
Again, every review period, we have a look to see whether it's a reasonable amount. My rule of thumb here generally is to look at the month that we're in, divide it by the number of months and multiply it by 12 and see where you land. So there's a little bit of point in time, but it will always be different to the budget that's set. I've never seen a budget that reflects what's set at the beginning of the year with what you land because of the variations all through the year. And that again is for the BR3, 2 and 1 process.
Is that a legal requirement that we do it that way? So for instance, in my business, I set a budget and at the end I determine whether I'm over or under in any particular category. I don't adjust my budget. My budget's my budget and I deal with it. I don't change the budget as I go along. But what I'm asking is that flexibility given to councils to do it that way, or is it a requirement that it's done that way, or
It's a
it's
requirement.
required that we do it that way? Okay.
Required that you review your budget quarterly. Because I mean, your budget, right from the beginning in July, your budget will change because you issue latest valuations, which will increase your rate revenue immediately. So, you know, BR1 will always have a slightly higher revenue.
I guess in private enterprise, when you set a budget, that's it. That's what you can or
There's no
can't
way
do.
to say.
There's no flexibility. That's it. You
Not
make
for
that
council.
work.
No.
But councils, I mean, I guess when we sit and we agonise over budgets, they're very fluid. They're fluid things. Really, we shouldn't get so.
To the chair, there's
It
two
just
things. So
changed.
one is your budget reviews quarterly, but the other is your capital projects review as well.
Yeah.
So you do have the ability to, if you find that for one reason or another, your budget's stretched and it's exceeding a number that you're comfortable with, pull back on activity.
But that's the only leeway councillors have is to pull back on activities.
Not much else.
No.
Because you otherwise.
So my last question then is regarding the questions taken on notice, information that was provided by the CEO. So my question around the gym committee was more about why they were overlooked and not included in the inspection process of the gym equipment. The revised manual question was sort of secondary to my main point, which was about relevant community members being part of that important process. So you gave me an explanation that these things are going to happen, but my question was, why weren't these people given the opportunity to be a part of that process?
I can't answer that, councillor. In terms of the inspection, I would say that there's probably no relevance of the committee members being part of the inspection process because it's a fairly, I won't say mundane, but it's about a piece of equipment. and it's an assessment against a certain set of standards. So it may be of interest to the committee members and they would be privy then to a report, but in a sense, they're not able to influence that report in any way.
I think where the influence would have come in is that there were a number of, the report that came back to us detailed a whole lot of equipment that was substandard and costs around fixing that or replacing it. Now, what the group have said is that if they'd been asked, they would have identified probably 5 or 6 pieces of that equipment that they didn't need anymore, and that could have been removed from the report and dealt with in a different way, which may have brought that cost down to replace only maybe 4 things that they wanted.
So that gate's not closed. So the report is the report in terms of the equipment we've got. And if there is then a discussion with the members to say, well, we only use 3 of those and the other 5 can go, that doesn't shut the gate for that. We're still working through the process of really, is council in the business of being in the gym? What is the insurance risks? And what is our advice to you at some point in the future about that?
I felt the report was quite damning, and I felt that the report would have been better had they had some input. So that was the crux of my question, was around that. I appreciate your response, but I wanted that response.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I could add just some further to that. One of the gym committee members was contacted about being there during the inspection, waited 2 hours at the time nominated, nobody showed, and then the inspection was done at a different time.
We can't
So-
comment on that.
Yes, I think there's a bit more work that needs to be done there with that communication.
Any other questions?
Just had a question regarding some of the grant applications underway. Noting that there's quite a few interesting ones that have been submitted, but the 2 regarding the Wellington East Water Supply Project, so they are running, can I just seek clarity that they are running in parallel to the discussions with SA Water?
Yes. So, council, we had a short briefing earlier today and an update on where the grants were for various things, because this week we were advised that we were unsuccessful a couple. The 2 that you're referring to are ones that we've specifically put in for Wellington East, and it's a 2-part process. First of all, it goes to the state. The state makes a decision about whether it goes through to the Commonwealth. Both of those have gone through to the Commonwealth, and they have come back with a series of questions, which is heartening in that they are still alive, if you like. But we won't know whether it's successful until the final assessment is made, and we don't have a time frame for that.
A further question regarding some of the grants that have been applied for the Canalpin solar panels, noting that there appears to be 2 different sites that have been nominated there. Just some more background on that grant application process and whether that can be potentially applied for more broadly across the council area.
Councillors, I'll have to have a look. Are they in the lap ones?
That's under project update table, and it's community energy upgrade program.
It's the
It's also for the depot by the looks of it.
Government opportunity for solar and government buildings.
Yep.
I think that can be applied.
I think they're only very small from memory. They're very small projects and they're specific. I can get some more information from, and I'll circulate that out of session, but from memory, they're very small projects.
Small, and through the chair, I think you have to have very clear business case, so you have to have all your data together. So that again gets back to this carbon footprint and energy audit, identifying the best possibility. Again, Swim is probably one of the best candidates.
Councillor Roundtree.
Just further to the question about the gym, Councillor Peach had asked a question too, and part of the response was that a meeting invite has been sent to the committee. This is regarding the gym committee and the insurance. Will the invitation be extended to the councillors like Councillor Peach, myself and Councillor Arthur?
Yes, it will be.
Will be? Okay.
I think it's at the end of this month.
I just haven't seen any diary stuff about it, and if they've been advised, I would like to be advised.
They may not have come back and confirmed yet. I don't know the outcome of that.
Through Mr. Mayor, one further question, if I may, just regarding councillor O'Hara's question on notice regarding RV camping at Meningie. Am I reading that correctly, that current zoning wouldn't need to be changed potentially to enable? It just talks about dividing and rezoning in the last sentence, and I'm just wondering if that,
So, obviously I wasn't here when councillor Hara asked that question, otherwise I would have answered it on the spot. So the zoning for, that site is suitable for an RV park. I have to change the land use zoning. However, if you wanted to dedicate a piece of that land and divide it off, there is another type of zoning that is more specific to RV. And that would probably, so the only difference is the more specific zoning would give you, you know, the easiest path to an approval. So you could do that. If you wanted to be 100% sure that, you know, we're going to have an RV park on that site, you could divide off a piece of land and do a code amendment and spend, you know, $50,000 to $60,000 and be sure of the situation. Or alternatively, work with the stakeholders, identify a piece of the land, maybe, you know, create a lease parcel, and submit a development application without doing a change to the land use policy, and subject to community response and the development application, it may succeed. So if you wanted to pursue something like that, we would have to have a project where there obviously would be costs associated with it. We have to do a lot of community engagement, I think, even before we, you know, commence in earnest, just to see if anyone was against the idea. You know, you do have commercial operators there. That's one of the things that you come across when a council undertakes such an activity, is that they, you know, they somewhat, you know, maybe taking away maybe some business from commercial operators, but no issue in terms of land use policy.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that not what we were told a number of years ago, and it actually did go out to public consultation then, and there was a few replies on it from along that West Terrace.
A number of years ago, you had a development plan. Now you have a planning code. There have been changes. So if you ask the question, I've looked at the code, I've looked at the policy, and I believe you could lodge an application for an RV park on that site. I'm not telling you you're guaranteed of getting it.
No.
You know how the development application process works, councillor?
Well, I mean, off the record, I told them just use it. What harm's that going to do?
I wouldn't do that.
I remember right, Mick, that was up the road there, wasn't it? Where the pines are.
It's not much different.
Putting an overflow
that
RV
was
park
another-
from
that
the
was another
caravan.
one.
And it was also mentioned at the time, Miles, that if it was dedicated to an RV park, part of the Oval, it would then become a commercially rated property. I don't know if that still applies either. It will take away the
It
community
depends.
benefit.
Depends what your model is. I mean, when I think about it, what's happening out here at Tail and Bend, at the Oval, they have an RV area there. I can't see any,
Mate, it happens everywhere.
Land use.
They pull in where they want to.
can't see any land use difference. Many councils have actually achieved this, but they've achieved it mainly for overflow purposes and for emergencies and the like. I
And
don't,
that's all that they were talking about at Meningie, was an overflow for a free camping, for an overflow of vans that are completely self-sufficient. And the council actually put a light there for the RV park to go ahead. Solar light, which is still there. Then we were told that the zoning needed to be changed.
not from what I'm reading of the code. If you'd like this explored more thoroughly, then please put something formal before us to do so. It will take some resources.
They will control it, yeah. And you said-
Okay,
Thank
anything
you.
else? Right, been moved councillor Arthur, seconded councillor Maidment, to council receive and note the report. All those in favour? Against, that's carried unanimously. Next one is corporate and community, I believe. Information report, someone move that way, please. Councillor Roundtree, you're a seconder. O'Hara. Questions quickly?
No, I have
Or
none. I'm happy
No
to-
questions? Put the motion. All those in favour? Against, that's carried unanimously. Number 3, roads and infrastructure information report. Move that way, please. Councillor Qualman and any questions? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Don't know if this corresponds electronically, but 96 on the hard copy. Traffic counters. Traffic counters have now been removed from Railway Terrace and Granites Road intersection and have been collected, and the results are currently being analysed. When will we see those results or the figures? Will they be presented to council next meeting? Can someone tell me?
Yeah, it'll,
I don't know.
won't make the next R&I meeting, it'll be the one after.
Thank you. And just one more, if I may, Mr Mayor. Something regarding Canalpin Hall, air vents reattached at Canalpin Community Hall with, what, there was some vandalism or the new ones? What was the go there?
I'd have to,
page?
and I'm gonna surmise that it was just general work.
Oh, okay.
Busted or.
Okay. It wasn't vandalism or anything like that? Right,
I
all right.
believe so.
Thank you.
Anyone else with questions?
Joel, regarding the maintenance grading system that we're employing at the present moment, I know we're firstly 2 grader operators down. What has been done to rectify that situation? And what are your thoughts on grading when you've got roads this time of the year at this stage that are that dry, have crumbled? I know you'll get a phone call around Richardson Road, and I've told you about that. It's just turned them to absolute rubbish. You know, what is the criteria we're looking at? We know we're behind, well behind on the maintenance, but with the roads, and if you talk to the locals, roads are bad, but it's no good grading. You only make it
Your
worse.
question, councillor, around grader, what are we doing to try and get grader drop?
Well, you don't live on.
Program itself, and what are we looking at addressing your concern or the concerns raised regarding control grading during the dry months, and is the regime going to change? Is that your question?
Yeah, and the other thing is, these roads that I'm getting the complaints about are actually school bus routes.
So, councillor, I suppose there's 2 parts to your question. The second part's quite a long discussion, I believe, around autumn grading in this district, and particularly this year. But just perhaps the first part, Josh, how do you think we're going with employment of operators?
Applications have closed for the vacant position. We've got 11 applications. Notwithstanding the first round, we had one operator that had some grading experience that lived locally. We had 2 others that were from overseas. Currently don't have a mechanism to be able to bring them over without sponsorship and additional cost. So that's trying to get, and the CEO informed me today that Mid-Murray have got 2 vacancies for control grader operators as well. So we're not alone. In terms of overall how we patrol grade, autumn patrol grading, still I'm 3 months in, but what I can see straight away, the field services team and the patrol grading team work on different shifts. So when we might have operators that are in COMFAC that could potentially jump in and help out when we're short, but because patrol graders do 12-hour shifts, they've got different conditions. So that's something that, as part of the current round of negotiations with the enterprise bargaining agreement with the outdoor workforce, we're putting that discuss to say we need to create more flexibility. We need to have more staff that have got their patrol grader ticket that know that jump in a grader time to time when we're short staffed. We know that we're not necessarily going to just be able to go to the market and get. In terms of operations, something that is on my agenda, we've got a workshop coming back that we're talking about the work zone traffic management, and it'll also cover off on patrol grading regime. I want to go and talk to the field staff and the operators as well, because they're a wealth of knowledge. And I'm hoping to present something back about how we might be able to do things a bit differently.
Okay.
Yep.
All those processes are in train. Sorry, councillor, I'm starting to fail.
Unfortunately, I think 8 years ago, we talked about having someone that could jump on and off the grader, and it's never happened.
Still hasn't happened. Still not enough people in this world. Okay. Anyone else?
One more comment if I may, Mr Mayor. Just noting the works done to the Tintinari airstrip, I'd just like to make mention of a very constructive meeting the director had with interested parties in the last couple of weeks, and thank him for taking that time.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Been moved and seconded. You, councillor Close.
No.
Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. 13. Motion, questions with notice, over Neil. Questions without notice, councillors? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just recently, council has engaged a tree arborist to go around inspecting trees that might have some, for their structural integrity, to make sure they're okay and safe. Has the Director of Roads and Infrastructure anything to report, or anything outstanding, or anything odd about the whole arborist report, please?
Through the Mayor, we're getting a trickling of the reports coming through. We know that the arborist has looked at the vast majority now. It's actually getting those reports. From initial inspections, there hasn't been any reports back to say, oh, we need some emergency pruning or anything of risk, but we're just waiting for those reports to come in, and with that there'll be a proposal for it. So not at this stage, but as I said, the arborist has looked through most of the trees. We haven't had anything come back saying, oh, there's a.
Thank you.
Questions? Being none, I move on to 13.1, motions with notice, and councillors, I do need you to look at the Chief Executive Officer's advice first. Around legal advice has arrived in the building but hasn't had time to be in the agenda.
A report will come to June.
The report can come to the June council meeting. I would ask mover to adjourn the motion.
Mr Mayor, I'm not prepared to. I'm sorry, this is the third time now that this motion's been brought forward, and I have adjourned it as requested the previous 2 times. I'm not even sure why we've needed legal advice for this. I note that the rewording of item 2 takes away any reference to a delegation and talks about a permit or permission.
So that's insurance advice, councillor. Not legal, sorry.
That would make a little bit more sense. I would like to move this forward in principle, Mr Mayor. I think it's a very simple request, something that achieves something that has been a bugbear for the community for a number of years.
If you were to move it, someone could adjourn the motion. Take your point, councillor. I'm going to allow you to move it as is.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So move.
There a seconder? Councillor Roundtree is the seconder, by the way. So, councillors, all I can say is that I would very much prefer it to be adjourned until the next meeting of council, based on the advice from our insurers is unknown at this point.
Through you, Mayor, we have advised the Action Club of what we're doing, so we got we got a request from them to do exactly the same thing. We sent back to them that we were seeking some advice from the insurers about that. We didn't have any response at this stage, and we weren't expecting any either. They are just waiting patiently for us to come back with some advice.
Hands, councillors.
Just can I ask a question, Mr Mayor? These existing banners, poles and that's the old ones that used to be put up. They're not owned by council. They were owned by the businesses in town who donated them, and the council, through the goodness of the heart, putting them up at Christmas time. They've never been owned by council. It's always been the businesses. Some of the businesses are no longer there, but they were purchased and the council used to put them up. So just a point of fact there.
Now, that may be the case, councillor, but the fact they're on public land makes this a more interesting subject. I need someone to either speak to the motion or speak in another direction.
I'll move them, lay on the table, Mr Mayor.
So
Some
councillor
further information.
Arthur moves. Is that the exact word? Adjourn, councillor, nowadays.
Adjourned then, sorry.
So what happens
Means
with the
it'll come
original?
forward, it'll come forward at the first opportunity, the next ordinary meeting.
I've got a meeting tomorrow night.
It's not about their meeting, it's about our meeting, actually. There's a seconder for that. Councillor Qualman, you're the seconder of that adjournment motion. I'd like to put that motion immediately. All those in favour? Those against?
Got a tie.
Fantastic. The councillor's adjournment motion is councillors councillors Arthur, Qualman, tell me if I'm wrong, and Maidman are voting for the adjournment motion. Against councillors O'Hara, Roundtree and Peach. But therefore, thank you for that. I will vote for the adjournment motion, councillors. So the adjournment motion is carried. That's the words I want to use. Thank you. We will get that information now. Next one, 13.2, roadside timber, councillor Peach.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move this motion. I note the Chief Executive Officer's comments, and that's in line with my wording in the motion. I noted with interest the media comment recently regarding the Naracoorte Lucendales Council's new policy on firewood collection roadside grazing that exists as a standing policy that enables their residents to collect firewood and roadside graze within a set framework rather than on an individual application basis. I've read through the document. I think it'd be worth looking at in our council area. And so hence I've brought this motion forward.
Yeah, is there a seconder? Councillor Roundtree, you're the seconder. You want to speak to it, Councillor Roundtree?
No, I think it makes perfect sense to do it.
I only make one comment. We spent about 3 years ago some time on a fallen timber policy, if I remember. So circulate it, please, as an initial, and if we could also circulate the Naracoorte Lucendales. I would find a roadside grazing policy a bit more problematic, probably, because it doesn't really say whether it's permanent or it's temporary or whatever. No, that's fine, Councillor.
Mr Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Arthur.
The roadside grazing is not our responsibility. That's the Landscape Board's responsibility.
Well, that will all come out in a report.
Just come out a couple of years ago, remember?
All come out in a report, Councillor.
When it was a drought.
Yeah, well, yes. Much to eat now. Okay, anyone else wish to enter the debate? Being no one, you'll close.
Close, thank you, Mr
Yeah,
Mayor.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously, councillor. Councillor Roundtree, no, 13.13.
Yep.
You moving that way?
And moving that way, please.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Qualman, I'm going to go with. You want to speak to it, please?
Well, the background is, I've provided some background. I just think I'm hearing this in places that I go to now, that I think that these projects need to be referred to what they are, installations or projects or whatever, rather than using the word farm. Farms traditionally mean other things, and I think to make it simple, we start referring to them as what they are and not calling them solar farms and wind farms, because as farms, they're not like farms.
Councillor Qualman, you wish to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, moving down the road, and we should have a careful definition or correct definition of thing being called a farm is not correct in my view, and eventually, hopefully, we might gain some revenue from these industry. So I totally support what Councillor Roundtree moves. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, that's what a farm they should pay.
That's right.
Reduce rates too.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against? Being none, you'll close. Motion is that in substitution of the terminology solar farm and wind farm moving forward, council refers to renewable energy facilities by their correct title in all correspondence, reports and press releases. That's the motion, councillors. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried. Carried with all councillors except Councillor O'Hara voting for it. Kidding me. I am up to motions without notice, but look at it. Thirteen point two motions without notice, councillors. I've got none. I'm moving on. None. Minute action list, item 14. Questions? Councillor Peach.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just wondering where the Salt Creek process is at this point in time.
You're referring to the
Look to the director. I think you've had enough.
happy.
So we've had several meetings with Department of Transport. We've got a concept design. We've provided feedback. We're waiting on those that feedback to be incorporated. They're going to give us a package of drawings that we can then go out to present to council. So we will table a report with council. I'm hoping next meeting, if not the meeting after, that'll give an update, and we should have timelines for construction at that point in time as well. They're anticipating that it'll be delivered before Christmas. We'll wait and see.
Thank you. Anyone else with any minute action list, please, councillors? Being no more, I move on. Item 15.1, which I believe is confidential items, councillors. For those watching the live stream, please be advised the meeting is about to move into confidence and the live stream will stop. For those who wish to view the end of the meeting, the video will be available on YouTube after today's meeting.